And he moved. Wow. You got one shot at. There we go. Fine. I thought my dad was dot. I didn't think my dad was hit based. Okay. Hey, stop pushing. Oh no! Oh shoot! I saw something ghosted, but that's Exile.
Must have time to I shall cast you into a pit of infinite torches.
Hey guys, so it's been a while since my last video was Elemental Hit Warden. I did 2 other builds that I haven't done any videos about because they were not good enough, I would say. One of them was Stalking Pustule, which was interesting with ward stacking, and the other one was Flicker Stack with Actum Axe. I'm gonna talk about those 2 builds at the very end of the video, but the main focus of this video is Flamewood Ballistas, which in my opinion is worth talking about because I was able to farm tier 17 maps, although like tankiness wise it's not amazing, but in theory it should have around 70 million damage if all the ballistas trigger at the same time and if all the projectiles land on the same target. So Flamewood kind of got nerfed because we removed Val Ancestral Warchief, and I am a big fan of Flamewood builds. I did like what 3 or 4 builds with those in the past. Val Ancestral Warchief with the Zenith Gloves was just absolutely insane damage. I think I got like 500 million damage. After we removed those, the damage kind of went down, and I would say the only good way of doing Flamewood is now with the ballistas, because you can do strength stacking with the replica Iron Commander, and every 200 strength you will get an extra ballista which can proc Flamewood with multiple projectiles. And strength also increases damage because of Iron Will. And also you are getting a lot of life by stacking strength. But this is not like a crazy strength stacking build, because it's not the most efficient way, I would say, to get the damage. Just stacking strength alone will give you more ballistas, but it will also mean that it's gonna be less likely that all of them gonna be hit at the same time. And if each of them do way less damage than this, for example, then like overall we're not gonna do more damage. So this is only 1000 strength, and I do have 13 ballistas. And Flamewood, in my opinion, is one of the easiest way to, or one of the cheapest way to get the damage. You can get so much damage for so cheap. So this build, it doesn't really have anything expensive. All the items are kind of cheap. I am using Corrupted Iron Fortress, but I bought a non-6 linked and for like 30 years, and then I just 6 linked it myself with the tainted currency. It doesn't need +1 arrows, which is usually expensive for like attack builds. And this is a Hierophant, so you have like very fast ballista placement speed, and you have very good life sustain and good mana sustain. You can even on top of this add Righteous Fire, and you would sustain it fully, completely sustain it, but only if you have all the ballistas active, which doesn't really happen if you move to fire. We kind of get deactivated. I think the main drawback of this build is definitely its tankiness. It's like 6.6 thousand life at level 92. I could pick up another jewel socket with a couple more levels. You would probably reach over 7k life with this setup, but other than just life, it doesn't really have tankiness. It does have determination, and I currently am sitting at 8.6 thousand armor only without the flask. And also summon skitter bots with unbound ailments, which chills enemies and slows them down by like 23 or 24%. So it does add some extra like defensive layer, but other than that, and ballistas absorb 5% of the damage I take, so it's not very much. But yeah, I don't have suppression, I don't have like avoidance or anything else, and it doesn't feel very tanky. The totems, the ballistas do taunt for 1 second when they are placed. Very often you still get hit and take a lot of damage, so it's not ideal, but you can make it tankier with less damage. You can definitely make it tankier. But I feel like this definitely needs damage because of the like inbuilt clunkiness. The enemies have to hit those ballistas. Some enemies just, there are some fights that I believe Siege boss which summons like 4 totems that you have to destroy before you can damage the boss, and those totems don't do damage. Or syndicate doors can also be tricky, so it does have like drawbacks, but even for the league start, I think this is one of the better options to league start with, because it's very cheap. You don't even need to stack a lot of strength, and you're still gonna have a lot of damage. So I'm not gonna go into like all the small details. I'm gonna include path of building import code. You can check it out. But it has like 808,000 average hit damage. This is with elemental overload, and it is Hierophant, so it actually does have pretty high crit chance for elemental overload procs. The split personality also is not expensive, it was like 30 here, something like that, maybe a bit more. I did pick up the medium cluster jewel for a bit longer reach. That's one of the drawbacks with the ballistas, and why I preferred non-ballista Flamewood build in the past, because you cannot place them far away. You cannot only place them almost at your feet. That's how far I can place them. And that can be very dangerous if enemies target them and you are standing right next to them and they get hit by AoE and you also get hit. Totem placement range, and one of them is not enough to make a big difference. You would want at least 2, and you could get a second one if you really want to. And by the way, the totem life, the Shrapnel Ballista levels matter a lot more than Flamewood levels. Flamewood by the way is a support, so you cannot even use replica Dragon's Fang's Flight. And the levels of the Ballista matters a lot more than the Flamewood levels. Flamewood levels barely give much. If I were to level up like Flamewood here, look at the damage, 808 plus let's say 2 levels, 843. So barely like 40k damage. Now if I raise 2 levels of Shrapnel Ballista, for example, you can see by how much more it raises. So you want levels of Shrapnel Ballista because that increases the base life of the totem, which isn't very high for ballistas. Ballistas are one of the lower totem life skills. I have this older information about each totem base life at level 20 with no quality, and you can see how much more life Bal Ancestral Words you've had. Like, what is it, 6 or 7 times more life than the Shrapnel Ballistas. But then again, you can place many more ballistas. Other than that, I'm using like Polaric Devastation, cover enemies in ash, gives a lot of damage, a nav and exposure on the gloves. You can actually get a bit more damage by manually casting Wave of Conviction with Combustion and using like LA Focus instead of Combustion support. But also like really good mastery is this one. Just 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. But if you use LA Focus, then you're not going to be igniting with the main skill, and you're going to need like a... If you want to min-max for a single target, you would set it up in a bit different way. Also, I'm using this anointment, the Watchtower. It does give +1 extra ballista and gives movement speed, because if you're using Iron Fortress, you are losing 10% movement speed. So this still feels kind of slow. That's without the flask. But I did try to kind of compensate that. I got 35% movement speed boost with another 5% movement speed implicit, so that's 40%. And then from ballistas I'm getting up to 13% increased movement speed, so that way it feels kind of good. And yeah, just stack like resistances, attributes. You're gonna need dexterity and int a bit, and then just the rest, just stack strength. I am using Magnate, which is also a cheap option. And you could get more strength by using Rare Belt, but you're not necessarily gonna get more damage, because 10% chance to deal double damage and 5% chance to deal triple damage is kind of big improvement. Besides, increased flash charges gain is also very nice for mapping. And all resistances, so it's kind of everything into one. And the corruption is also cheap. Leveling with this was actually kind of annoying. I'm not gonna recommend a leveling setup, because leveling with ballistas, it wasn't very fun, because you place them close to you and it was dangerous, so it wasn't very pleasant experience. But basically what I do is just power through until like level, I think it started to feel decent tankiness at like level 85, when I started actually stacking a bit more life. Very nice and cheap way of getting damage. Now I want to briefly talk about 2 other builds that I did, which was Stalking Pustule. I'm gonna include some like clips, but I think I only have 1 clip of mapping with it. Now the Stalking Pustule is from the Runesmith enchantment. It's a cheap one. I did this build back when we had unique boosts with the Stalking Pustule skill, but now you can support it by 6 supports rather than 4. I use Saboteur because Saboteur has CDR, which you do need. So it has a 2-second cooldown. Essentially what I was trying to do was make those Stalking Pustule do enough damage and kind of clear in a way that they would refresh themselves. So get CDR and just proc more of them. So Saboteur works really well because you proc 2 times the amount of balls and using Spell Cascade, but it does need corpses. So I was doing ward stacking with the Night Grip Gloves, which does give a lot of flat hairs damage. I had like 9000 ward and I was getting 900 flat hairs damage. That's a lot, but it had like no defenses. The build was visually very satisfying. Those balls when they get created, like it has cool visuals. And it's just really fun seeing those balls get spawned, chase down enemies, kill them, and then respawn themselves and just keep chasing down. In a perfect world, I would do that once and it would clear all of the map. That would be the perfect world for me. I feel like that Stalking Pustule does have a like really interesting potential. Like I said, I was doing ward stacking to get the damage because it's level 1 skill. It doesn't have very high base damage. Even at low level, it was doing like really bad damage until you start stacking a lot of flat damage. So I'm not sure how would I improve that, but I feel like it does have a potential. Ward stacking just had no tankiness. I will include pathbuilding import code for that Stalking Pustule as well. Next one was Flicker Strike with Actum Axe. This is also kind of an interesting idea which I did in the past. Actum Axe limits your... Actually, I still have the build. The Actum Axe limits your crit chance to whatever it says. So critical strike chance is 29 for hits with this weapon. However, you can still get a higher effective crit chance by getting lucky. And I did get a Hyperboros belt, which to my surprise was like 5 divines for this specific modifier. Well, actually now it seems to be lower. When you focus, you essentially get lucky crit, which increases your crit chance from 30 to like 49 effective crit chance. And that's without getting any crit chance node, and you cannot actually increase your crit chance in any other way. So you don't need crit chance, and all the crit multiplier is with the Marylene's Falacy, which doesn't lower your critical strike chance, because you cannot lower it, because Actum just sets it at that percentage. So you don't need to invest any points into any of the crit nodes. You still may want to use critical strike multiplier support or like pick up critical multiplier on other items if possible, like Abyssus. Abyssus gives a lot of critical multiplier. On top of that, Berserker with blitz charges will also not lose any more crit chance because Actum just sets it at that point. Obviously you use Supreme Ostentation to ignore attribute requirements, so you're gonna have less life, less accuracy, and you may run out of mana easier. So I had to kind of life tap everything, and using Swollen for the lucky block, so this is also capping my block. Using the Admiral's Arrogance to maintain rage better. Not actually sure if it's worth it, but the +3 to melee skill levels does add a lot of damage as well. Running Berserker on automation and just getting a lot of rage. Clear speed felt great, but single target actually just wasn't great. If I lose rage, which I will because of Berserk, it just feels so bad to kind of ramp it up, especially like if it's dangerous enemies. And eventually once I don't block and the enemy just does a lot of single target damage, it just kills me. This isn't very tanky. It only had 4,800 armor. I did not have Fortify, I did not have Endurance charges, so I didn't want to do a video because the build is just not good enough, I would say, and many would say, oh, it's a squishy Woolfio's build. And I had some problems getting enough accuracy, so it was just kind of okay mapping build, but I wouldn't recommend playing this. But however, I still wanted to mention this because Actum plus Marylene's Falacy plus new Perfect Agony could be interesting, because you are getting just so much critical multiplier from Marylene's, and your crit chance and crit multiplier is kind of taken care of, and you also do not need any damage over time multipliers anymore, because Perfect Agony and crit multiplier overrides it. The question is just how do you sustain, because if you don't crit then you don't apply ailments. So what kind of build would you do? Maybe like Ignite, because you only need 1 Ignite. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting idea to do this kind of Actum with the lucky crit and then Perfect Agony with the Marylene's Falacy. By the way, if you got some interesting ideas with this combo, let me know, because I may just reuse these. Again, I will include this build in the description as well, if you want to take a look at it. It does have like really solid damage on paper, but that's at maximum. That's at maximum rage while we have Berserk, while we have maximum blitz charges. So it's like 9 million DPS on paper. I did have 55 maximum rage. So yeah, that's about it. I have a build idea for the next build, but nothing too concrete. So if you got some interesting build ideas, let me know in the comments below. I have like 15, maybe 20 divines worth of currency that I could spend on a build, and I'm not sure what to do. All the cool enchantments are way too expensive. Like it costs like 13 power runes, and one is like 4 or 5 divines. So yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's gonna take too long, but Mjolnir, Squire, and Bollighting of Static, or Absolution of Inspiring. I haven't actually planned, not sure how I would set it up, but I may actually try that. But again, leave some build ideas in the comments below. For now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.